Spooky.
Spooky. Oh my god, we are live.
Can I just do the goth kid thing?
You can, so we can see your awesome color. Good.
I cut all my hair off again yesterday.
I love that color. I use that color.
I was trying to grow it out, and I was like, fuck it, I can't do this.
It gets too hot. I always think I'm going to let mine grow out, and then I'm like, pfft.
No, I'm not a long hair person anymore.
I'm trying the long hair thing at the moment. My hair might be too thick for it to really look good, rather than just fizzing.
Yeah, that's my problem. Like, I just can't deal.
Wham, my hair's so thick. Wham.
Some people have their little monikers underneath them, and some of them don't.
We've been trying to make it work, but it hasn't been really working for everybody. So if you want to try it out, you can. So on the left side of your screen, there should be a whole bunch of little like pretty colored tiles and stuff. Apps. So the Hangout toolbar is the one you want. So double click on that.
Hang up toolbar.
Ow! And the cat's an appearance. Kat, can you try to add Jennica in? Because I guess she's not getting in.
Bitch, click the link.
That's what she just said. She clicked the link. But
Okay, I'm in Hangout toolbar.
okay.
Linne, do you want to walk her through, and I'll see if I can get Jennica in?
Work on Jennica. Okay, so then click the little dude in the circle.
Know who you are on Google.
Yep, click that. All right, and it'll say lower third.
No, nothing's happening.
Oh, nothing's happening.
You might have to give it permission if...
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine had to.
So try closing the toolbox and opening it again, if that helps.
Okay. All right. So enter tagline. So I just put in my.
If you want. Yeah. We for name we switched to our honey tags, and then for the tagline we used our Twitter handles. Jennica! Yeah!
Jennica!
Jennica! Yay!
Oh my god, there's so many of us in here.
And then change your color to whatever you want, and then you have to go to, and next to lower third, make sure it's turned on.
Lower third, turned on.
Oh, yeah!
You're good.
I was like, I'm backwards, but that's because I'm seeing myself. And then just save.
Yeah, you should be set. It's so weird. I don't understand why some people are working and some aren't.
Yeah, that is strange. The last time I did one of these, it worked fine, but I don't know.
Now I can't get rid of the goddamn toolbox.
Oh, just click back over to the left side and click the toolbox again, and it'll go away.
Christ's sakes. Yeah, but when I do that, it just tells me I'm in a moderated call.
You're clicking the right thing.
You're my moderated call.
There we go. Okay, all right.
Control room.
I hate control.
All right, Jennica, we can't see you, and your microphone is muted. Get your shit together.
Did I spell supernatural right? It's backwards. I can't see it. Sorry, Jen.
Flip it around. It'll fit the whole picture, though.
Whoa!
Jennica, are you outside?
What was that?
I'm gonna try it again.
Aliens.
This is live, people. This is where the magic happens. Not having sex. That would be awkward.
That'll be an entirely different podcast.
I guarantee aren't happening in revenge anyhow.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
Elliot, you traitor. Get back here.
All right. I don't know what's going on here. All I know is that we're live and everything's on YouTube and.
Yay!
Yay! Okay, Jennica, I can hear you tapping. What was that? Tap 2 times if you're dead.
Oh, I saw her. There she is.
Hi,
Well,
Jennica.
hey.
What is happening?
I don't know, but I'm loving every minute of it.
Jennica! Something!
Can she hear us? She looks very confused.
Does she know where she is right now?
Oh man.
Does she know where Does she know where the camera's on? I feel like that's a valid possibility right now. Jennica, your camera is on.
Oh god.
Maybe somebody should text her. Message her.
Lady,
Poor girl.
Elliot!
Holy shit. Okay, this is really hard to control.
Ow.
Already. Okay, so someone has background noise that needs to die.
It could very well be Jennica. God.
I'm texting her.
Get this under control. I knew that the first, 20 minutes or so was just
Does anyone else watch the movie right now?
It does feel like we're making a really terrible horror movie.
I was about to say this feels very unfriended.
Yeah.
at least we're on trend.
I have a message from Jennica. She says we're cutting in and out. She's getting headphones.
Okay.
And Jenica's dead. Jenica was really left up.
Yeah, if anyone just dramatically commits suicide on camera, I'm out of here.
I think if this were a real horror movie, I'd be the first to go. Just saying.
A lot of stuff going on there.
And now the ghost of Jennica is going to haunt Google.
Good lord. What's that?
Okay, so we can hear a lot of stuff going on in the background, and that needs to stop. Jennica?
Yeah.
Aha! Okay, so you are the noise culprit. Go somewhere quiet. Oh man. Oh, I think we're good now. Are we good now? Jennica, can you hear us?
Oh my gosh, really?
I love your hair.
Oh, thank you. I got it cut and I said, give me the Mary Elizabeth from Cloverfield. And she's like, I don't know what that is.
Nice.
But she figured it out.
Nice. Nice.
I don't know if anyone else hears it, but on my end, Katie has this amazing echo.
I hear you echo.
I can hear someone's TV. Let's put it that way.
I do not have a TV on.
Okay.
No TV.
Not me.
Okay.
I'm in my kitchen. No TV in here.
I hear the echo too.
Yeah. We're all echoing.
Everyone's echoing.
It's like that voice of God effect in movies.
Well,
That never works out well for
I put
anybody.
headphones on, so hopefully there wouldn't be, like, if it's playing out loud, is it going to echo? Or no?
Oh wait, it just went away.
No, you're
Not for
echoing.
me.
I think as per usual, we're going to have to function with all the weird noises that come with our podcast.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fine. That's fine. Okay, so. Okay, 20 minutes after we're supposed to go live, it is Honey Radio. This is season 3. This is episode 100, and you fuckers asked for video, so look at us, we're on video, and we're on video.
We have no idea what we're doing.
Again, I'm just putting that out there.
Oh, we have no idea what we're doing. Okay, so we're doing this through Google Hangouts, so bear with us if shit goes awry because Google doesn't like us very much. So, yeah. We decided together as a group that we were going to keep it 100 this episode. So we're going to pick apart Hitfix's top 100 horror films and suggest some new entries, some removals, and there's a couple of things on here that I really want to talk to you guys about because, Chassity, I have some words to say to you about The Exorcist. So we're going to have to talk.
I knew that was going to get me in trouble.
Oh, see, I thought I was the one who was gonna get in trouble for that, but yay, Chaz! Took the pressure off me. Am I the only one drinking?
What's that?
Am I the only one drinking?
No.
I'm waiting for my booze.
You are never the only one drinking, darling. It's 1 p.m. I am overdue. Ugh. All right, so my name is Kat. I am the head honey, and joining me this evening is, I'm going to go in order of what I can see underneath me. So, Bella.
That's me. Hi.
We have Slasher Honey Chassity.
Hi.
We have our horror TV honey Jennica. We have our sci-fi honey Katie.
Hello.
Oh, we're still on Jennica. Katie, say hi again.
Hi again.
There we go. And our revenge honey Linne. Linne.
Sorry, everything froze for me. Literally everything froze when I got to Jennica. I was just sitting here like, what the hell's going on?
Our monster honey Sarah. What was that?
Okay, good. That sounded weird to everyone.
Sarah, let's try that again. Let's try that again, Sarah.
Oh,
There we go. Our supernatural honey Suzanne.
Hello.
Ah, you're in the dark. You're always in the dark when we do these. All right. Well, let's get this show on the road, so to speak. So, in keeping it 100, Hitfix's top 100 films. It's a really tired list. It's a really old list, and it needs some fucking help. So we're gonna do the top 10 first. Now their top 10 is is a decent enough top 10 if you've never seen a lot of horror, I suppose. Man. So
It's got the staples. It's got the staples.
It does. It has the staples. It has a good representation from every kind of subgenre, I suppose. And it kind of covers the baby horror steps. For people just getting into horror, this is what everybody likes to recommend and watch and all these kinds of things. It's films you go back to. Some classics, some not classics. I think what my biggest argument here is when these films are appearing on these lists is what is the reason for them appearing there? Like, are they important to the genre? Are they important to a subgenre? Are they important or groundbreaking in some way? And why are they there? So first on their list is The Exorcist. I would like to know...
That's where it should be. Sorry.
So we're a little bit divided here. So 4 of us have agreed that The Exorcist remains at number 1. But Suzanne and Sarah, I'd like to know your reasons for wanting it downvoted. And I'm not mad.
Well, for me, it's just, I love The Exorcist. I really do. But I think, and I still think that it holds up. But I think that there are, personally speaking, I think there are other horror films that affect me more probably than that one does. I don't find it scary.
Is that your qualification for having something be that high on the list? Something you have to find very scary, or
no?
What would be a number 1 to you?
I didn't see it until I was older, and I had read the book prior to seeing the film, and I've always loved it. I don't dislike it in any way, shape, or form. But for me personally, I don't think it's the greatest horror film.
What is? What's your number 1?
I don't know. I have a top 5 that are all kind of, it depends on my mood, which, it would definitely be in my top 10, but it's not in my top 5.
I think that's fair. All right, Sarah?
My kind of thinking was more just a case of, is it number 1 on this list because they genuinely thought it was the best horror film ever, or is it just number 1 on this list because it's just always been the number 1 horror film? Like, are they actually thinking about the placement? Basically, is my kind of thought on it. And basically just like, are they putting it at number 1 because they actually think it's number 1, or are they just putting it at number 1 because they think that it's supposed to be there?
Mm-hmm. Which is also
it's the film that's number 1 the most on, top 10, top 100 lists. But I've seen Jaws in that spot. I've seen Psycho. The
Shining.
The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, I think, is number 1 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
okay.
Well, if we're going in terms of like importance to filmmaking in general, then yes, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari definitely belongs way up there, way higher up on the list than it actually is on this one. I think that's totally fair. Chassity, your answer surprised me the most. You would like to see it removed from the list entirely.
Chassity!
I know. It's an awful thing to say, but I don't get it. I struggled to get through the movie. I just didn't get it. I didn't see the appeal. And it may just be because I saw it so late in the game. Like, I think I saw it about 3, maybe 4 years ago, and I couldn't connect with it. And it didn't scare me. There were a few good moments, but it didn't scare me. I just didn't see the appeal.
I think it's probably also number 1 because it's one of the only horror films that's Oscar winning. So in terms of it being a good film, like script-wise, acting, effects, it kind of checks all those boxes too. So.
Yeah, it has been acknowledged as a stellar film.
It is a stellar film.
It is. I think it definitely belongs in the top 10. I don't know that I would keep it at number 1. I know I voted for it to be in number 1 because it's one of my favorite movies, ever, and I watch it every year, lots of times a year. But I think it's definitely a top 10 movie. Does anyone else have any other Exorcist thoughts they would like to share?
But see, that's the thing for me is didn't see. Hold on.
What did I say about?
I didn't see anything in it that was like even from a like cinematography perspective. I didn't see anything that impressed me. If I had felt like I could connect with the script or anything like that, like it was just a stellar film, then I wouldn't have minded that it didn't scare me. I didn't even feel like it was stellar. I didn't see anything just from a storytelling perspective that appealed to me. I just found it boring. But maybe again, like once you know the story like 1,000 times over before you've seen the movie, then maybe the storytelling in and of itself loses something. So.
Yeah. Did you see Scary Movie before you saw The Exorcist?
Oh yeah. Way before.
That might influence it a little bit too. Or if you watch Repossessed or something before you see The Exorcist.
Get off of there.
All right, let's move on to movie number 2, which is The Shining. Because of course, if you don't answer The Exorcist for your favorite horror movie, you answer The Shining. And thankfully, everyone was like, "Fuck this movie, downvote."
For sure.
I think that's the only appropriate response if you're an actual horror fan. Like, no. Just no.
I mean, once again, it's a beautiful film. It's beautifully shot, but Kubrick is an asshole. And
Agreed.
The Shining is just covered in asshole.
Sums it up.
There's a lot of problems with that movie. There's some really great things about it, but does not belong at number 2.
No.
Sorry.
My biggest problem with it will always and forever be the casting of Jack.
Yes. Who's already crazy at the beginning?
Casting of Jack,
Yes.
casting of Wendy, the casting of Danny.
Yeah, it's just
not good enough.
it's just not it's not good. It's not good stuffs.
No, definitely not. So, nice to we all agree on that one. All right, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is at number 3. Okay, Linne and Katie, I want to know why you think it belongs at number 3. And Chassity.
I don't know if it should be 3 specifically, but I think for most of these, if I'm okay with them like kind of being in the spot they are, yeah, it deserves to be in the top 5. You know, I think I still watch that movie and find things that I love about it. So maybe it's a personal thing, but yeah, I love it.
Linne?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, it's for me the reason it would definitely be in my top 5, and I'm fine with it at 3, because I feel like it ushered in a genre of film that nothing had really touched on before, and that's not necessarily, it gets lumped in with redneck horror a lot, but I don't think it's even that. I think it's this very specific family kind of horror that you've seen replicated a million times since it came out, but had never really been nobody had really paid attention to it the way they did before Texas Chainsaw. And I think it had a style that's been replicated a million times, and for those reasons, it makes sense to me that it be that high on the list. Because if you're looking at it in terms of being influential, it's one of the most influential horror films ever made. Whether or not you like it, you can't deny that it's been replicated, copied, remade so many times. And there's a reason for that, because it is enduringly a frightening film.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the most brutal film on the list, like in this high on the list for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Bella,
Yes.
why did you think it should be voted down?
It doesn't I mean, I agree with everything that Linne said in terms of the influence that it has on its particular subgenre and in the horror genre in general. But for me, there's not that personal kind of. I don't go back and revisit it often. I don't have a huge connection to it. So this was more of a personal kind of. I don't even think it belongs in my top 5. I would say maybe top 10, maybe top 20, but it's just not one of those that I'm just like, yes, I'm gonna go back and rewatch that, and I don't maybe I just don't give it the credit it deserves, but for me it doesn't warrant that much merit. So that's why.
Sorry, I'm being informed by Twitter that anything I'm saying is being upstaged by my dog.
He's damn adorable.
Of course.
Informing anything I'm saying is secondary to this face.
Ellie, yeah.
Heck yes.
He's embarrassed now. He's embarrassed. Yeah. Anybody out there looking for a dog for the cover of a puppy chow bag? He's ready and willing, and I'm his agent. Right here.
He's a great snuggler.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
All right.
He's
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hasn't spoken yet. Jennica,
Yes.
talk about TCM.
I think that it deserves to be on the top 100 list, but not in the top 10. I was kind of thinking more of movies that I just instantly fell in love with, or movies that instantly frightened me. And the first time that I saw PCM on IFC, I hated it. And I lumped it in with Redneck Horror, and I just thought it was garbage. When I saw it years later in maybe a film class,
I'm gonna stop you. Jennica, I'm so sorry. I can't hear you well. We can't hear you like at all.
At all.
No. Where's your microphone?
No. I have one, and it's on. No.
Can you talk a little louder?
I could talk much louder.
Excellent.
Better?
There you go.
No. Is that better?
Kind of. Just shout.
Good. Should I shout?
Yeah, do it.
Now? Louder?
Hurrah! Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Good. No.
Did Jennica freeze?
Alright, we're gonna move on. I'm sorry, Jennica, your microphone is just not happening right now, which is awful. Because
You know what? I was just thinking that Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Is anyone else hearing that spaceship flying by? Or
Yeah.
Coming over their computer.
I was thinking that TCM should get a downvote just for Franklin.
That is a very fair point.
Is there anybody else in horror that you want to see murdered more than Franklin? I mean,
No, Franklin.
No, it is the most satisfying.
One of the best scenes in the film is when she's pushing him through the brush, and all of a sudden Leatherface comes out of nowhere, and it's like, yes!
Oh God!
exactly. You've been waiting for it the whole movie. There's no more satisfying death than the death.
Yeah, I don't think it matters
Gone
how
on
many
with
horror
that.
movies you've seen. That is always going to be like perfect.
Doing a disservice to people in wheelchairs everywhere.
No.
I implore you to think of another wheelchair-bound.
What the fuck is going on? Okay.
Do we
Alright,
have
so
Jennica back?
number 4. Do we have Jennica back? Ah!
I think she's on her phone now, based on the closeness of the camera.
Jennica?
Yeah,
Yay! I can hear you!
but can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really hot, but I can't open the window because it's really fucking windy. Okay, film number 4 is Rosemary's Baby. I don't think it belongs in the top 5, but that's me. And everybody else thinks I'm a dumbass. So.
Sarah agrees with you.
All right, so Bella, why don't you tell us why Rosemary's Baby belongs where it is?
Honestly, I think I'm with Katie on this. I wasn't unhappy with where it landed, and I was totally okay with where it landed. Like, it could probably be anywhere up in that top 10 area, and I'd be okay with it. I think that movie just speaks to me stylistically, tonally, and it's the one. It's that one cult movie, that weird, twisty cult movie at the end that I don't hate.
Oh, yeah. Your least favorite twisted movie.
Yeah, and maybe that's why. Maybe I feel like Rosemary's Baby was one of the first ones that I ever saw that did it, and it genuinely, I was like, oh, okay, like, I get this. And so maybe it ruined it for me for all the other ones that do it so poorly. But yeah, I mean, it could be anywhere up there in the top 10, and I would be happy with it being there. So that's probably why. I think stylistically and tonally, it just really resonates with me on some level. Plus, I really want her hair and her outfits.
Yes. I'm with you. And her apartment.
Yeah.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we all
It's
want
not the neighbors.
No, not the neighbors or the baby or the devil fucking. Like, none of that.
Yeah, or even the husband. You know.
No, I'm good with none of that. I just want her hair and her clothes in her house.
Yes.
We just got very single white female over here for a second.
That apartment's not real, by the way.
The what?
So the apartment's not real, by the way.
Yeah.
The interior?
Oh.
The interior is not real.
Ruin it.
Sorry.
Ruin it.
Well, no, see, it's one less thing you need to have now.
That's true.
And isn't it where John Lennon was killed? The exterior?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I've stood outside that building and cried. It's rough.
Oh.
It's rough. And they don't like it when you hang around and cry outside the building.
Well, no, because
They don't like it when you hang around outside the building. You don't have to be crying. They just
Yeah,
don't.
no, in general, the guards tend to shoo you away, but and they're not interested.
Aw.
Oh my god. Okay, this is seriously going to take us forever, and I don't care. Okay, Sarah, could you tell me why you think Rosemary's Baby should be voted in?
I think it's just a case of that one it never really worked for me. Maybe that's used to it like at university, although it's probably not it, but it really worked for me. I couldn't tell you why, I just never really did.
I feel similarly. I don't know. I love the aesthetic of it. I don't know. It's just something about it just always rubbed me the wrong way. I love the book, but something about the film itself just never really sat well for me, and I don't know why. But I don't think it doesn't belong in the top 10. I just don't think it belongs in the top 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
I think it belongs high up on the list because I think it's an important film. It just wasn't an important film to me.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
All right, film number 5 is Alien. And
I think that should be number 2, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't believe that that's at 5 and The Shining's at 2 because that's
exactly.
Yeah.
I need power cord.
So, Alien being where it is, we all, except for Jennica, think that it should be voted up. Suzanne,
Yes.
please tell me why you think it should be voted up.
I just think it's an incredible sci-fi horror. I think it, some of it's dated, but some of it, I think most of it holds up really well. It still gives you that kind of, jolt when certain things are happening. It's very, oh, there's Elliot, look at him. Sorry. That dog kills me.
Killing him. I just hitting me.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I actually prefer Aliens to Alien. But I didn't make Katie happy with that one.
I've heard a lot of people say that, and nobody will ever make me happy with that statement, but I have an unfair bias against anything to do with James Cameron, so don't even worry about it. It's okay.
I certainly think that it deserves a higher spot than what The Shining got. So, ow. Sitting on the floor is hard.
I think the main thing about Alien is that sci-fi doesn't normally get lumped in with horror, and this one really made people sit up and go, "Oh shit, space is really scary."
Right.
I mean, we had Space Odyssey before that, which is boring as fuck. So
the special effects. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. My favorite villain death is Ash from Alien. So his death will always be one of my favorites. So I love Alien. I think Alien deserves to be where The Shining is.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
All right, Jennica, we're going to try you once more.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Aha, we can hear you just fine. Why does
Good.
Alien deserve to go down?
I feel like this was actually a hard choice that I might even go back on now, since you mentioned The Shining, and I feel like that's highly overrated and doesn't deserve to be where it is. But I don't know. I love Alien. I just don't know if it deserves to be that high on the list. I don't watch it as much as a lot of other horror movies that are up there, so that was kind of part of my reasoning for that. I enjoy it every time I watch it, but it's just not something that I really watch a lot.
I think that's fair. All right, let's move it on. Number 6 is The Thing. Everyone disagrees with us again. All right.
This was hard for me.
It's hard.
Dog death. So I struggled with saying there because I don't watch it ever, but I can't disagree with its placement because of the effect that the effects had on the industry.
Yes.
So purely from the effects standpoint, I think it absolutely belongs where it is.
Well, I think that's why I was so upset with the placement of American Werewolf in London on this list. Like, Why is that number 18? Why isn't that higher up?
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think a lot of times people forget about the impact, especially of special effects, because we're also, I think everybody's just like, oh, look, they could do anything now, that people tend to kind of just not think about it when it was all practical and, really, really hands-on, and the impact that had moving forward. But yeah, absolutely. I think that anything with amazing effects that you can really call attention to, I think that definitely probably needs to be bumped up, or if it was high enough, like The Thing, I think is in a good position for that.
I think I've only watched it once. I'm such a bad person.
I grew up watching that one with my dad a lot. A lot.
Aww.
I've watched it a few times with people who have fallen asleep and not understood like what's the big deal about this movie. So
I don't think I could ever fall asleep in it
No.
at all.
I mean, for me, you probably could until everything starts to go down, and then you're like, "What's happening?"
shit just got really, really weird. It got really weird.
I watch it every winter. It's a great winter horror film.
I do
for
agree.
sure.
All right.
I mean, it's.
Oh, wait, sorry. Go, Sarah. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I mean, the thing is just one of my favorite, and that is because of the practical effects. It is just because like Carpenter and atmosphere, like he can just really kill it. And also, like the first time I ever saw it, it was only like a few years ago, but I was home alone, lights were off, and then when that dog just splits open, I was just like, yeah. And I love it. I just love it.
It's over 30 years old, and it's still, those effects still are amazing.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Exactly.
and those are some of the few effects that have legitimately been in my nightmares when I was a kid. With the spider head. Was in my nightmares.
Just about to say Spider-Head.
Yes, spider head.
All right. Number 7 on the list is a seminal horror film that our favorite fanboys wank over constantly, and I think it does deserve to be where it is on the list, although it could probably be in the top 5, and that's Halloween. So, Chassity, can you tell me why it should be higher on the list, please?
I mean, I've said before, like, as, you know, the slasher honey, I feel like this is, like, the Citizen Kane of the subgenre. I mean, it's super important. It just defines what a good slasher movie should be, and it never loses anything, no matter how many times you watch it. So, I mean, I definitely feel like it there will be number 1 as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's just so much that can be learned from that movie, and there's just so much in it that's perfect, and that just defines the slasher genre. That, I mean, it's educational, it's endlessly creepy, and the idea that you don't know, there's no rhyme or reason to why he's doing this, it's just endlessly, like, bone chilling.
I think that's an excellent argument. Linne, tell me why it deserves to stay where it is.
You know, this is where it gets really complicated when you're in even the top 20, but I mean especially the top 10, because it gets hard to say, you know, like, okay, Halloween's amazing, but what place should it take in the top 10? Because we've already covered that Alien should obviously be in the place of The Shining. So should Halloween be at number 5, and should The Shining not be there at all? I mean, it gets hard to say, you know, what should the order be here. And for me, you know, Halloween being in the top 10 at all, I think is where it belongs. So, you know, 7, 5, whatever, to me at this point it was all just elementary. You know, it belongs in the top 10. It is a definitive movie in the genre. Mm-hmm. Nothing has really ever come close to post Halloween. This is where I have a problem actually with the movie that comes at number 8. I do feel like 8 and 7 should be switched. Rather see the next movie at number 7 and Halloween at 8. But yeah, I mean, to me at this point, like, it's half a dozen one way or the other. You know, it's as long as it's in the top 10, I think it's where it deserves to be.
Yeah, I agree. Does anyone have any final thoughts on Halloween before we move on? No, there's no denying that it is one of the definitive movies of the horror genre, and if you haven't seen Halloween, you will be attacked immediately for not being a real horror fan. So keep that in mind. But coming in at number 8 is the movie that I believe deserved all the praise that Chassity gave to Halloween, and that's Psycho.
Yeah, that probably should be 2 or 3, actually, if I were to move Psycho on the list.
As a bastion of horror making and horror film and groundbreaking filmmaking and, you know, Hitchcockian weirdness, like, Psycho is the horror film, especially in the slasher genre. I personally believe it should be in the place of The Shining, for sure.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a Halloween without Psycho.
Exactly. There wouldn't be any slasher movies without it.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, I don't even look at it as like comparing it to Halloween or anything, because for me, as much as I love Halloween, Psycho is just in a class of its own. Like, I've reached the point where I'm not even sure that I can, like, I'll think of it as just horror. I don't even think of it as anything but this unique, just fascinating movie in a class of its own that you can't even compare or relate to any other film. So
I think when you get a classic like that that is so so perfect and so impactful on horror, that I think that tends to be the case. It's like Psycho has to make the list, and it has to make the list really high up. But why? Because you just know that's what, because it has to. Like, duh. So yeah, I think not comparing it is probably where my brain goes as well, Chas. Like, I don't even think of it as being, oh yeah, that was a slasher. Didn't even think about it that way. Just because it's Psycho, it's like that's it. Like, period.
Well, because it's in the stratosphere of being an iconic film, and
right.
Not all the films on this list have that status where you could ask just any old person on the street, like, hey, what happens in the shower in Psycho? You know, and everybody knows, and they can do the sound effect and all that. Like, so it's on a whole other plane.
Yeah. So if you were to take away movies that are iconic, that are iconic and that are going to be forever, they're just not going anywhere. We might lose a couple there, and that would be interesting to see. That would be interesting to see. And I think Psycho would definitely be one of them.
All right. Let's chug it right along. Number 9 is Night of the Living Dead. And once again, Chassity, why does this deserve to be removed from the list entirely?
Oh shit, I missed that. Oh snap. That's a step.
I don't even have the words for it. I don't know. I just did not. I don't know. I didn't feel that. I don't know. I just didn't feel that this movie was scary. I didn't feel that it had anything to offer to the genre, given that how old it is. And how I think of movies as like kind of paving the way. I couldn't see anything in that to be like, okay, well, you know, that scene or that trope or that anything paved the way for X, Y, and Z movie that came after. I just didn't feel that it was anything special to it that you can say, well, you know, this other movie took from that. I don't know. Just no for me.
Bella?
This is the problem with video, because I have this face and it does things that I just can't even control.
Sit in the dark, Bella. That's what I do.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to start. There's a lot of problematic things to Night of the Living Dead, yes. However, you cannot strip away a movie's significance to horror, to its own subgenre. I mean, this created the modern day zombie, which I know many people don't like, but billions of people do like. Ridiculously so, some more than myself. You cannot just strip away that significance and be like, fuck it, take it off the list, I hate that shit.
Because that's what I was looking for, though. Like, I was looking for something awesome to make me feel like, okay, this is just great compared to the later movies that I've seen. I didn't see anything that was so fantastic about it. that
You have to take into consideration, though, all elements of what made this movie. You have to take into consideration the social commentary that wasn't actually being done. You have to take into consideration the fact that it was an independent film. You have to take into consideration that it birthed modern zombies. You have to take into consideration all of these elements that make it this kind of this genre identifying movie. Like, it did that. It put this on the map, and it's not my favorite zombie movie. It's not a movie I go back and see and revisit all of the time. I have issues with this movie, and I wrote about that in my review. But to say that it doesn't even belong in a list of the top 100 horror movies is just mind-boggling to me. You have hurt my brain. Hurt it.
Aw.
And I don't have my beer yet. And that's not fair.
I'm sorry.
What the fuck? Where is Bella's beer?
Take it back, Chaz. Take it back.
I'm sorry. It's my fault. It's my fault. I just saw it too late. It was never gonna live up to the hype for me. So it's my fault. I will totally take the blame.
You don't have to take.
didn't feel like it deserved the title of classic.
This is not about blaming or shaming. This is
No, not at all. I mean,
of course.
yeah, there are just a lot of elements, I think, when you're composing a list that you have to give credit where credit is due, whether you appreciate it for what it is now, because it's not the same as the stuff that we get today. But yeah, I think completely removing all of that from it is just unfair. Unfair to the film, not just to my undead heart.
I think the thing that with these lists that's so difficult, and I think the thing that sometimes we sort of lose sight of when we're comparing movies or do that, film in general is just, it's so subjective, and what affects one person isn't going to affect another person exactly the same way.
Absolutely.
And horror is incredibly personal.
Absolutely.
I think probably one of the more personal ones, because it tries to, not always successfully, delve into your deepest, darkest fears, and it's effective sometimes, and it's not effective. But again, and I think for those of us who have been watching it for a very long time, and have been exposed to a lot more over the course of our lives, you find a way, and I think this is the thing, like, Chas, you're not a baby, but you are young, and it's I think being able to appreciate something even if you don't necessarily like it, or it's not your bag. I mean, it's like The Shining. As much as I dislike that film, I've probably watched it 100 times, trying to find something redeeming in it. because everyone says that they love it, and I have developed an appreciation for certain aspects of the film over the course of its existence. Am I ever going to love it? No, but I understand why people do, and I think that's and it does deserve a place on the list. Do I think it deserves a place at number 2? No, I don't. Do I think that Night of the Living Dead is the greatest zombie film ever made? No, I don't. But exactly what Bella said. It's groundbreaking. It was the start of modern zombie films. It does deserve a place there, I think, but we just have to find a way to appreciate certain things, even if we don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I can respect the fact that it's groundbreaking. I guess I've just become a cranky pants when it comes to like the term classic, because it just gets, I don't know, I've reached a very jaded point where I feel like that term is thrown around so much. I guess it goes back to our conversation a podcast or two ago about there are certain films that, like, if you go to a film school or even just take a film class, you better come into the class waxing poetic about it, and if you don't, you basically be kicked out of the class for all intents and purposes. So it's like that attitude for me. I just feel like some movies are just given such praise because of not necessarily just because of their place or their time period in history, but it's because if you don't, then it's like you can't really talk about film if you don't, wax poetic about this movie because you're supposed to love it. So I guess I've just become jaded about that term and was
I think there's
about it.
I think there's a big difference, though, about a movie or a film that you're supposed to love because people love it, and a movie that, even if you don't like it that much, you still recognize it for what it was. So, when you talk to a lot of film people, oftentimes, like Suzanne said, it's very personal. You bring all of your own stuff to the table when you're discussing it. But I think film people in general, if they're making an opinion based on the film's merits, whatever they happen to be, whether it's how it was created, what it created after it, or what have you, I think that that's where they're impassioned when they talk about it. Not necessarily that they love the movie, but they recognize these things that make it the classic that it is, whether they're attached to it themselves or not. And I think that that's the thing that you can't forget when watching it, that there are movies that I watch that I hate that I go, well, I recognize what it's doing and why that's important, so I have to give it that credit. Otherwise, I'm just a douchebag on the internet talking shit about movies. I want to be known as a douchebag on the internet for other reasons.
Everybody is. But the thing about A Night of the Living Dead that I always come back to is that even modern films don't have the guts to end a horror film the way that film did. Like, right. It was so brave for its time, and I think it's still a brave ending and a brave.
I still get mad. I still get mad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. Absolutely.
All right, lovies. Let's move it right along. We are going to cut this off at number 20 because otherwise we'll be here for a million years.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
What do you mean? I have all night. I can do this all night. Let's go to 200. See you in the morning.
I've got no way.
Yeah, this is supposed to be an 8-hour episode anyway, so.
Yeah.
Our 100th episode broken into 100 parts.
That's right. All right, number 10. Number 10 is the movie that when I watch it, all I do is think about Suzanne. Creepy.
Oh, me too.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
So Jaws is at number 10. The majority of us believe it should be rated higher. I'm going to ask you, Suzanne, why should Jaws be higher on this list?
Because it's like the greatest horror film ever made.
And done.
All right, moving right along.
You know what though? When we were looking at top 100 lists, the Bravo scariest movie moments, Jaws was number 1. The opening scene was number 1. Scariest moment in any horror film ever. So that was interesting.
Well, that opening scene is traumatizing as fuck. Because I don't think people really thought about what was underneath them while they were swimming until that fucking moment. I know that's what I think of every time I go swimming now, especially in Australia. Fuck that shit.
Don't go swimming in Australia.
I know, right? Like, I can't see my feet. I don't want to go again. Thank you.
Yeah. Since I saw that movie when I was a little kid, I have not been in any kind of open body of water past my shins. That is a true story.
I think that's totally fair. And I have heard, while I was in Australia, that people were taken off the beach in, like, shin-deep water. So there you go.
Yes. Well, you know what's amazing about Jaws, though, is that they haven't really made another truly scary horror film about a shark since then, at least in my opinion. Like, all the films about sharks that have come since then, like Deep Blue Sea is fun, but Jaws is scary.
Well, I think, that there are tons of monster movies or creature films that steal directly from that idea of, this big giant thing and underneath the water, or in the woods or whatever. And no, nothing is ever going to match. Nothing is ever going to match that.
No, definitely.
No, Linne hates Steven Spielberg.
I don't hate him. It's generally overrated, but it's not that I don't like a lot of his movies. There are plenty of his movies that I do like, and Jaws is one of them, but I don't think that he's the genius people give him credit for. Did anyone else see Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Come on.
Well,
I'm actively trying to forget that.
The reason you never see the shark in Jaws is because it was malfunctioning so much. Right. So maybe it was like a happy accident that it ended up being scarier than he intended.
It was a happy accident. That's exactly what it was, because so it was the music, and it was the not knowing. Like you don't actually see the shark until really see it, until like 3/4 of the way through the film.
Yeah, it's that kind of suspense that I think a lot of filmmakers have tried to replicate in other forms, still failed miserably at it. Not necessarily with big monsters, but with other things. I mean, I'm not gonna point fingers. It's fine. Other people have tried to create that level of suspense without showing, it's that nameless terror, faceless terror thing, and it just never works out as well.
No.
And that jump scare, that one jump scare, the head in the boat, always gets me. Every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Linne, remember we saw it in the theater? We both jumped. We're like, meh.
It's like you've seen the movie a million times, but then you see it in the theater, and it's like you've never seen it before.
And the shot that still gives me the chills is when he eats the boy on the raft, and you just see the fin, like in the raft, kind of flop over, and you can't see clearly what's happening, but it's horrible. Like that always, that still scares me.
Definitely. Now, there are some people who do not agree. I'm not going to pick on you. Sarah.
Well, actually, you guys have kind of convinced me now.
Yes.
Because I think my thing was just motivated by the fact that I haven't seen Jaws for a long time, and I'm just like, is it really that good? And then you guys have now convinced me. So sorry, Chas.
Thanks, Sarah.
Sorry.
Well, now I don't have to put a hit out on you, Sarah. So.
I'm sure you'll come up with another reason.
Yeah, we'll come to you when we get to Poltergeist. Woohoo! Chassity, do you want to tell me why you want Jaws out of the top 10?
I mean, it's a frightening movie. I mean, we all get in the water at some point, and just the thought of that is terrifying. And of course, the music. I mean, come on. But I don't know. I just didn't feel like it belonged in the top 10. I agree that it should definitely be on the list, but I just feel like there are so many other films on this list that could have been higher. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's a great film. I'm not nothing against it. I never get to be the negative Nelly. Getting my chance tonight, though.
All right, number 11 is A Nightmare on Elm Street. And Jennica, I would like you to tell me why it belongs where it is.
It's my favorite slasher movie, as far as the 80s ones go. I love Freddy. I love Robert Englund's. Unlike a lot of the slashers, I mean, you have Jason, Michael Myers, but Freddy, he has great lines. He has quotable lines. I mean, you can't quote Michael Myers. You can't quote Jason. You can't quote a lot of the villains in a lot of these movies, but he's memorable to me.
I feel like I quote Michael Myers in something now. Like just dot.
And well, even just beyond that, I think that it's a more creative slasher plot. It's not someone off killing babysitters or something that's more faced in reality. It's creative, and he kills people in creative ways, and you're not safe, awake, or asleep. That's different. You don't really have that before then.
It's funny that the first time I watched it, I remember being completely traumatized by it, and when I watched it again not very long ago, I was traumatized all over again. It's a really brutal movie. I don't think it gets enough credit for how brutal some of those death scenes are. Like, where the babysitter's being dragged up the wall and up the ceiling. Like, holy shit! Like I was not prepared for that when I was younger, and I wasn't prepared for it again when I watched it. And I really don't think it gets the credit it deserves that way, for being that kind of a horror film. So I'm glad it's as high as it is on the list. I do think it belongs a little bit higher, just for its effect on the slasher genre in general. And
I think it kind of relates to me personally, I guess, as well, as someone who has had really horrifying recurring dreams, and to think that could be real, it's awful.
Absolutely. It's that whole Matrix thing, like if you die in your dreams, do you die in real life?
Yeah.
Suzanne?
What?
What? Why do you think it doesn't belong there?
Did I say that?
Yeah, it's in red. That means you wanted it voted down.
Oh, voted down, yeah, but not off the list.
Oh, no, not off the list. No. Just needs to be lower.
I like Nightmare on Elm Street. I do. But I think there are better films that deserve to be higher. I'm not saying... I still think it should be in a top 20. But I think there are better films on the list. Be higher up than that. That's all.
I would agree with that.
I have no issues with it at all. I just, it's not one of my favorites.
Sarah?
Just a personal thing.
I'm just basically in the same position as Suzanne. Just, it's like, it's still definitely within the top 20. Just maybe there's a few others that just think maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, and that's my reason for voting it down as well. Katie, you think it belongs higher. Tell me why.
Well, and it's a personal thing again, because after we lost Wes, they showed A Nightmare on Elm Street at my local theater, and I've never seen it in theaters. So I went and watched it, and the opening titles, like, I had to hold on to the seats around me because it was so good and it was so loud and perfect, and I never experienced it like that before, and I've always loved this movie. And when you rewatch it, you kind of remember when Freddy was scary and he wasn't such a cartoon, and and the implications with who he was in the first film, and and I think that, like Jennica said, the dream aspect of it is just a really creative way to kind of have a framework for horror, and it's something we can all relate to, and something we can all be afraid of because you can't stay awake forever. So, I mean, there's just a lot of reasons why I think, I would put it in the top 10.
Awesome. And I mean, there's so many iconic shots that go with that too. I mean, no one's ever going to mislabel or miscategorize that claw rising out of the bathtub.
That's a good shot.
Everyone knows what that is. Everyone knows what movie that's from, and that will be forever. It's like the Jason mask. All right, number 12 is Don't Look Now. Now, I haven't seen this because I'm a dick. Linne, could you tell me why this belongs higher on the list, please?
I would flip this and Night of the Living Dead. For me, I think Don't Look Now, in terms... It's so hard to categorize how I feel about this movie. It was the first non-horror movie I ever saw that scared the living shit out of me. There was just something so unsettling about it from the first frames. You don't forget this movie once you've seen it. And the visuals of it are so effective. And not even that, but like the sex scenes are so iconic. And that's something that we don't really see in any of the other movies so far, is that nothing else in the top 10 really touched on that other side of horror, which is the sexual side. And it's just, it kind of encompasses all these different elements of what makes horror. And for me, it just, it would be in my top 10, unequivocally. And, you know, not to rag on Night of the Living Dead, I get everything Bella said, but for me, it's not something that holds up in the same way Don't Look Now does. I can't sit through Night of the Living Dead because I can't stand Barbara. It's crazy. I cannot sit and watch the movie because of that.
I understand that. I really do.
Right, so it's not something I can return to, where Don't Look Now is something I could put on and watch on repeat for a full day, just over and over again, and never get tired of it. So I think that it's actually really nice to see it get recognized in this way, because I don't think it often does. And I know it was actually on, Katie mentioned the scariest movie moments, and that was actually really nice to have seen that too, but it's not something that gets mentioned a lot now, and I was really happy to see it here, but I would have been even happier to see it higher.
Suzanne, do you want to give your opinion as well?
Pretty much everything that Linne said. I mean, it is. I was actually surprised to see it on the list. I was happily surprised to see it on the list. It's one of my favorite films. It's definitely in my top 20 of all time. I think it should be. It's a special film. It's just like Linne said. It's just like from the very first scene, you're like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going to happen? And it's always that, you know, and there's like the build up and then a little bit of release and then build up and a little bit of release. So just it is sort of like sex.
This movie edges you.
It does. It does. And the end is just
unbelievable,
crazy.
And he's such a strange director, because he made so many movies like that in the 70s, and then he made The Witches, which I know most of us saw and loved as kids, which is the first movie of his I ever saw. So, you know, when I went back and saw this, it was just kind of like a mind fuck. Like, the same guy that made The Witches made this movie? How is this the same person?
I think I just pictured a little bit of my childhood right there.
Yeah, so then seeing the rest of his movies and seeing how dark and sexual and scary they are, it's like, what was that? Like, what was The Witches in this particular filmography? Like, that's
How have I not seen this movie?
Yeah, you would love it. I mean, and like during Erotic Thriller Month, I reviewed another one of his movies with Art Garfunkel, and you go into that thinking, Art Garfunkel, what the hell? Like, that's not going to be scary or unsettling, and it was even more unsettling to me than Don't Look Now. Not just because you see Art Garfunkel's balls, which I didn't. I could have gone my whole life without seeing that. But, you know, as a director, he a lot like Lynch, I think, has this ability to mix sex and horror in a way that just gets under your skin and you never forget it. And it's, again, you know, it's just really nice to see Don't Look Now acknowledged for the fact that it's enduringly terrifying in that way.
I think that's why I voted for it to stay where it is, because I was so surprised that it was mentioned and pretty high on this list of 100. Because it doesn't really get any recognition, not the recognition that it deserves.
No, it definitely come up a lot. So this is shocking and lovely discovery at number 12. So does it belong in the top 10 then?
I mean, it would be in mine for sure. It does not surprise me that it's not, though. You know, it's just not one of those movies that the average film goer probably hasn't seen it, but even the average horror fan is not going to sit down and watch Don't Look Now because, they're going to get in there and go, this is boring. Why am I watching this? It's one of those movies that the pacing is different than your average horror film. It's, there are only a few other films on this list that I would categorize in the same genre as Don't Look Now. And, it's one of those movies that, thematically, stylistically, it probably does belong in the top 10, but it would never end up there, realistically. So.
I think that's a very deserving argument. We may move it up there. All right, number 13 is Suspiria.
Collective eye roll.
This is one of those movies that I have to side with Chassity in that it's one of those ones that everyone's like, oh my god, you must love Suspiria. I fucking don't. No, it's boring. It's boring. It's boring. It's boring. I don't like Argento. I think he's a shitty director. I like the music. If the soundtrack is beautiful, I love Goblin, but I mean, and I'm a dyed-in-the-wool vocal ballet obsessive person, and I love that aspect of it. Suspiria just does not. It doesn't give me the giggles, you guys. It doesn't give me the tingles. I don't. Ugh.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. And that soundtrack is the stuff of my nightmares.
Absolutely.
But,
well, I think that we're all kind of ruined after we did our Argento podcast because we had to watch a ton of his films, and yes, they're more bad than good in his filmography for sure.
Yeah, and I think the only takeaway from that podcast was that Dracula 3D is hilariously bad.
The worst, yeah.
It's one of the worst, and I watch it as often as I watch Showgirls because I love it for its badness, which is also awful.
The funny thing is, I've even before I was a horror honey, I was watching a lot of Argento movies, and I don't even think Suspiria is his best movie. It's not his most watchable one. So I find it interesting that it gets the praise it does because it's not, Goblin soundtracked his other movies. A lot of the same actors in all his movies. I mean, it's the elements are always there. I just feel like people. Huh?
The Naked Daughter.
Yeah.
Not in that one, fortunately.
She ended up a lot better than she had a right to, given her upbringing. But I think that he has other more interesting, more watchable films, and so I don't necessarily understand why this one is the one that everybody rages over.
I don't know. It seems to be iconic for weird reasons, which is fine, and I love that so many people are passionate about it. I'm just talking to Joan on Twitter about it. Hi, Joan. And she says it's the first horror movie that really scared her, and I know she's seen a lot of shit. We've all seen a lot of shit. I don't know what it is about Suspiria that just makes me go, eh.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it wasn't his first movie that I saw, so I don't know if that's it either. I didn't watch his movies in any sort of discernible order. I think the first one I saw was Phenomena, which is still one of my favorites. Jennifer Connelly talking to bugs. I don't think you can get any better than that. Little baby Jennifer Connelly talking to bugs. Come on. To stop a serial killer, no less. So. But yeah, maybe it's just the order that I watch them in that swayed the way that I feel about them. But I don't have any affection for it whatsoever.
I think it's pretty, and I like the soundtrack.
You suffered through the whole Mother of Tears series.
Jesus, people, don't do that. Not recommended. Yeah, I'm. It's a beautiful movie. The soundtrack is fantastic. I think that it is boring. It is a slog for me to watch it. Usually I end up watching it in two halves because I fall asleep. And the ending always ruins it for me. I expect... Do you remember Legacy? That movie with Sam Elliott and the devil?
Yes.
Okay. I always want the end of that, like when you see Legacy and they finally show that creepy ass old dude. Like I always want the end of Suspiria to be like this super creepy thing, and it's not. It's like, oh, I see this witch. I'm just gonna kind of like dance out of here and blow the whole building up.
I'm just gonna moonwalk over here and then bam.
It's so ridiculously anticlimactic that it just every time I watch it, I'm like, I stayed awake for this, and I really wanted to sleep the whole time.
Wait, what is Legacy? I want to see Legacy. I've never seen it.
I
The
reviewed Legacy for, I think, one of my Saturday creature features a while back.
I love that movie more than I should.
Now I want to watch that.
It's really good.
Good.
And it's got Sam Elliott, Heine.
Yep.
Oh.
Belly and grabby fingers.
Naked Sam Elliott.
Naked Sam Elliott. Everybody needs him in their life.
All right. Damn, Suspiria. Okay, number 14 is Poltergeist. Poltergeist. Jennica,
Yep.
tell me, my dear, why you think Poltergeist should be booted out of the top 20.
It's kind of again just a movie that I don't watch a lot. I didn't bother seeing the remake. I was given the remake for free from one of the press events I went to, and I ended up just selling it on eBay because I knew I'd never watch it. But I
would have taken it. It has Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm as angry at it as a lot of loyal Poltergeist fans. I enjoy Poltergeist, but it's not one that I watch a lot. It's not when I think of even my top 10 or top 20. It probably wouldn't be there.
Didn't you go to the haunted house experience for the Poltergeist thing?
I did. That's where I got it.
You haven't watched the remake?
Yeah, that's where I got the remake copy. And that was a huge letdown. I don't know. I mean, it was a paranormal experience that was hosted by, I think, Fox Entertainment. So, I mean, obviously they're trying to make things happen.
Paranormal Activity, sponsored by Fox.
Yeah, I was very skeptical and still am.
That's funny. I love it. Sarah, my darling, tell me why Poltergeist should be removed from this list entirely.
But just first, I need some liquids. Okay. I accept that Poltergeist has amazing, like, it's one of those films that for years I'm hearing, oh, Poltergeist is one of the best haunted house films. Poltergeist, you have to see Poltergeist. And then I finally watched it and it's like, okay. I understand why people love it, but I mean, I guess like saying that I'd take it off the list entirely is a little hard. I'm just looking at Elliot in Linne's window, but it's just it never worked for me, and I'm gonna pull the age card here. That it's just never been one that's worked for me, and in the remake Sam Rockwell doesn't even dance, so
that's a big problem.
Then what's the point?
Exactly. If you got Sam Rockwell, you make him dance.
He could dance the Poltergeist away. Just yeah.
Exactly. But I don't know what it is, but the Poltergeist. I think you just had to. People just have to see it at a very certain age, and I just didn't.
I don't even know that age is an appropriate argument anymore. Sorry.
Well, no, it is for this film because
no, that's
I think for this film, it's for a lot of people, it's the first horror movie they ever saw when they were young, because it's PG.
True.
I mean, even it's 80s PG, so it's pretty extreme. But it is one of those like entry into the genre kind of films, and it's something I do plan on showing my niece someday when she's 6, so we're working toward it. Yeah.
She'll be ready now. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's where the age thing comes in. Is some people grew up with it and some people didn't. But Linne, you haven't seen it yet, right?
I haven't.
Or won't see it. Okay.
Yeah, again, I put my name on there, and then I'm like, you know what? That's not fair. I've not seen it. Again, I've said this on other podcasts. It's coming to the point now where I don't care anymore. It's kind of I don't remember now. I've already forgotten what argument I guess The Exorcist, when Chassity made the argument. You've seen it talked about so much, and at this point I've seen so many parodies. Like, I know Family Guy Poltergeist more than I know the actual movie. I've seen the Family Guy Poltergeist episode a million times, and I've seen so many spoofs of it, so many revamps of it. I've seen the remake. At this point, like, why I just can't bring myself to go back and watch it, because I don't feel like it's going to be any value added to my life now.
And you're probably right, honestly, like, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is our second Steven Spielberg movie, and I call it Steven Spielberg movie because we all know that Steven Spielberg filmed at least half of it. Sorry, Toe Hooper, but whatevs. And Spielberg has that quintessential family dude touch, and I don't know. I don't think Poltergeist is. See, I voted it staying where it was. I don't know that it belongs elsewhere on the list. I think it's a safe one. And Katie, I think you're right. It's definitely something that people saw first, probably too young. Like, I know our hardcover honey Jocelyn, every time we talk about scary movies and things that really scared us, she's like, oh my god, Poltergeist! Ah! Every time. Because she saw it too young. So I think it's definitely an iconic film for a lot of people, and this was their introduction to the genre. It got them interested in it or terrified them away from it forever. So I think it's hard to move it just because of that. I don't know. Does
No,
anyone
I can understand that, and I know that my feelings about it aren't entirely fair, but I don't know, I think it is just because it just left me so, for lack of a better term, dead.
I think that's fair. And there are no unfair arguments. There's no such thing as fair or unfair. We're not 5. These are opinions. We're allowed to have them. There's no such thing as fair. I hate people who are like, that's not unfair.
Opinions are like assholes.
Yep, everybody's got a lot of them. Oh, Poltergeist. Bella, did you have any final thoughts about Poltergeist?
I love the movie. It's one that I revisit a lot, but it's not in my top. It's not even in my own personal top 20. It's just it's an easy horror movie. It's a decent horror movie. It's a good place to start, but I don't feel like it deserves any massive props. So by my saying a down vote, I mean like way down.
It's a thing that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing that happened. It's a thing that's fun to watch again when you see it on. But it's not something I actively go after. I don't know, maybe top 50.
Stop it. Go away. I'm sorry. I swear, play to the camera now.
I want to scratch his little face.
I know. My God.
I don't know what his deal is. It's like
Oh, Elliot. All right. Number 15 is a movie I think should be in the top 10 just because of its subject matter, the way it was filmed, the original source material, everything about it, and that's Carrie.
I was surprised that was so low.
Me
I was too.
Me too. Now, do I play the card of, well, it's about women and periods, so that's why it's so low? Or is it something else? Like, I know it resonates more with women just because of the subject matter. And I don't think that's something we can avoid. Katie.
Yes.
Darling Katie, why do you? So Katie, Sarah, and Chassity think this should all be voted a little lower on the list, and I would like to know why.
I will take the last 20 minutes, and that's about. I love the last 20 minutes or so. The first part of the film, especially the scenes that are trying to be funny, they're so painfully dated that I can't get through it. It's like watching a bad soap opera. A bad one. Not a good one, Chass. A bad one. In the 70s.
Is there any such thing as a good?
there's a
Hey.
It has my favorite jump scare of all time. The last 20 minutes, I mean, Piper Laurie is excellent. But the rest of the film, the cheesy score, everything, it's so 70s and not in a good way. Just for me. I mean, no. Sorry. I'm sorry, you guys.
Don't apologize. It's totally fine, and it is dated. I think I watch it a lot, and every time I watch it, I'm shocked by how much slapping.
Because some of these films from the 60s, 70s, 50s, they don't feel dated when I watch them, and Carrie always does.
No, that's very true. You know, the thing of it is that something I've always been told is that the goal of filmmaking is to make a timeless film. That when you watch it, you don't know what era it's in, you can't place it, like any of that kind of stuff. That's why I think that, you can see the tape I'm holding. Okay, that's why the remake, I think, is going to not hold up well because everything's on mobile phones, and who knows, that might not be a thing for very long. So I think the timeless aspect of it is very important, and yes, it is very 70s. Very 70s. But William Katt's hair is amazing.
He's also like 40.
Oh, and John Travolta is awful in this movie. Sorry. Oh.
He's awful in every movie.
That was one of the worst marble mouth performances, though.
All right, so myself, Linne, Bella, and Suzanne all believe it should be voted up. Bella, tell me why.
For me, this movie is I don't know. It's just it was one of the first kind of horror coming of age movies, I guess, and I fell in love, and I haven't read the source material, but I fell in love with I know. There's a reason for that you'll all hate me for later. Don't worry. Douchebag on the internet. I fell in love with her mother and her mother's dynamic with her, and being the oddball in school, that kind of outcast. It wasn't like that, but it resonated with me in a way, and so I don't know. It's a very personal decision for me that it should be moved way up on this list, I guess. But really, from a horror standpoint, I feel like her mother's fanaticism terrifies the fuck out of me.
Oh, Piper Laurie was terrifying. Yeah. Absolutely. We talked about this on our last podcast. Linne, you talked as a literary character that you wanted to see more from, like a backstory or a movie about Margaret White. I completely agree.
Yeah.
That's spectacular.
And that comes from just the movie, like I said, not having read the source material. But yeah, that forever, she just is. It's horrifying. It's horrifying. And then of course the whole coming of age and teenagers are bastards.
The biggest thing about the whole coming of age thing too is that it's one of the first horror movies that's a coming of age. Maybe not one of the first, but it's one of the more standout examples of a coming of age movie that's not about some guy.
Right, it's not, and it's not about sex, and it's not about drugs, and it's legitimately, dealing with who you are and your body and the changes that you're going through, and leaving your family and the things that you go through when you are becoming a fucking adult, or what you think is an adult, because when you're 18 you still don't know shit. So but yeah, I just feel it should be much higher on the list, for any number of those reasons, any of them.
I agree. All right, Chassity. It should be farther down.
Like I think I told you guys before, I had to be reminded that I had even seen this movie. I thought I hadn't seen it, and then my dad reminded me that I had. Yeah, exactly. And then I was like, okay, now I remember why I don't remember. I fell asleep because, like Katie said, nothing happens of note until the end. So I'm like, what the heck? So, I mean, it has its moments. For that ending alone, it should be on the list, just much lower, because as an overall movie, it doesn't have much to offer until that ending. So,
I think that's a fair argument. And Sarah, is that your argument as well?
Yeah, pretty much. And just because I did read the book before I saw the film, and I loved the book, and it's just kind of like I just found from the prom scene amazing, like no arguments there. It's just when I first saw it, I just found pretty much most of the stuff that came before it, not the stuff with her mother. The stuff with her mother is good, but pretty much everything else I just found a bit kind of silly and dated, and yeah, so I wouldn't put it like much further down, but just a couple of notches maybe.
I think it's fair. Jennica.
Mm-hmm.
It got really dark in your house really fast, girl.
It did.
Tell me how you feel about Carrie.
I actually love Carrie. I've watched it. I've watched this one a lot, especially growing up and being a very awkward teenager. I've met probably a good portion of the cast. I've met William Catt. I've met PJ Souls a few times, and I've met Nancy Allen. And the funny thing was, I feel like my best experience was with Nancy Allen, who played the meanest of the mean. And at that point, I don't believe I had seen the remake, but I just talked to her a lot about what that movie meant to me, and how I really don't feel like there should have been a remake, because even though Carrie does maybe seem dated and very 70s, it's still a concept, an idea that I think that a lot of people at that age can still relate to, regardless of the time period. And when I did see the remake, I was really angry. I hated the acting, or rather overacting, in that movie. It was kind of shot for shot the same movie, just with new technology, your iPhones and different trends. But
close to the book, but
yeah, and I think just going beyond that, I don't buy Chloe Grace Moretz as Carrie White, because
an ugly girl.
just looking at her, I don't buy that someone like that would be picked on. She doesn't look like your weird outcast girl.
No, I think that's what really sold it for me with Sissy Spacek, is that she looks like an alien in the film, and it's amazing, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But I can see why, they chose her, because she really would have been picked out.
Yeah, I mean, she even said in behind the scenes that she came into her audition with an old dress she had since middle school, and she just took the hems down, and she didn't wash her face that day. She was ready for that part.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally agreed. All right. Where are we at now? Oh, 16. Sweet 16 is Nosferatu. This is the original 1922 movie, and I don't think any movie that was made before 1930 should be this low on the list. As something that is iconic not just to horror, but to filmmaking in general, I personally believe that Nosferatu should be way higher on the list. Way, way higher.
I agree.
And it's one of those things, like, this list was full of Dracula movies. There wasn't just one Dracula movie, there were like 4 Dracula movies. But no Shadow of the Vampire, no What We Do in the Shadows. I mean, all these kinds of things are missing. So Nosferatu, I believe, belongs super high on this list. Suzanne, darling Suzanne, please tell me where you think this belongs.
I definitely think it should be a little higher. I think it should probably be in the top 10. I mean, it's the first vampire movie. Well, you know, first sort of creepy vampire movie. I'd rather watch, and I'm probably gonna get slapped for this, but I would much rather watch the silent Nosferatu than watch the one with Bela Lugosi.
I feel the same way.
It's
It feels like blasphemy, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. But, you know, I am not really a fan of the Universal monster movies. So, except for The Mummy. I love The Mummy. I like the Hammer films. So, it's really not that blasphemous. I think Nosferatu's, you know, it's simple, but it's beautiful. And I love the makeup on Max Schreck.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you remember when we saw it with the orchestra, though? And
God, that was the best Halloween ever.
it was amazing, but so many people in the theater were laughing at it. And I think because people of our generation, even older, younger, whatever, I think that they don't understand or appreciate silent films in a way that maybe we might or older people might, because, you know, it was a completely different style of acting and a different style of performing.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, it was infuriating. And I've heard from other people that have had really similar experiences when they've seen Nosferatu or other silent horror films in theater settings, that all people do is laugh. And, you know, it just shows that there's a real lack of understanding going into these films now.
Absolutely.
I think this film holds up better and is less cheesy than Carrie for me.
It's almost less dated in a way that you could see somebody making the same movie now.
Yes.
Like, you see a bunch of pictures with a handheld camera going out and making this movie, and you wouldn't think twice about it. You know, you would just, oh, okay, that's filmmaking. So
and it's a film that has been redone and has been copied. There was a Cthulhu cult movie that was made in this style, in the 20s style, and it's beautiful. It's modern, but it's in this style, and it's really beautiful, and it really does take an understanding, and people to understand that, you know, silent films were the translation of stage to film. So the makeup for stage is thick, fake makeup with huge contour lines. Everything is weird and fucky. They didn't know quite how to use cameras properly, and everything was it's almost experimental film, because they didn't know what they were doing. They're like us with Google. We're like, aha, movie. And that's kind of what it was. And Nosferatu is a beautiful example of that.
But that wasn't makeup on Max Schreck. Can you see Shadow of the Vampire?
Shadow of the Vampire so much.
Exactly.
And it's also such a wonderful representation of Bram Stoker's work, because it was stolen from Bram Stoker's work, and they had to change it so that it wasn't, you know, copyright infringement, suey kind of stuff. And I think it's the most honest portrayal of Bram Stoker's actual novel. That's just my feel. Jennica, tell me why you think this should be lower on the list.
Nosferatu?
Yeah.
I kind of the same reason of my feels with Dracula. I love silent films. I love black and white films. I love Universal monster movies, but I found Nosferatu, I think it's creepier than Dracula, but it's still kind of a little boring to me. I appreciate it from a historical standpoint, but beyond that, it's kind of just another Citizen Kane for me.
I think that's really fair. And the thing of it is that we've been comparing some of these horror movies to being the Citizen Kane of the genre, and it's funny that you bring it up as like a negative thing.
As somebody
Yeah, I
who was
mean-
forced to watch Citizen Kane about 50 times in film school, it's not that great. There are better movies than Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I took at least a few film classes in college, and there was always Citizen Kane, you have to like this movie, and I still don't like it, but I appreciate it. And, I even took a horror film class, and I think one of the first things that we watched was Nosferatu, and I didn't like it, but I appreciate it.
I think that's really the key. Is it doesn't matter if we like them. It's the appreciation of what they mean, especially Nosferatu, what it means for the genre and for filmmaking in general. Some of the very first movies that were ever made were horror movies, so it has a huge amount of value in and of itself, just in that fact.
Yeah, actually, I remember I did a class project for one of my classes comparing, I believe it was Cabinet of Dr. Caligari to Tim Burton's, oh my gosh, Edward Scissorhands. And I talked about Nosferatu, and I talked about German Expressionism, but I'd rather watch Edward Scissorhands. I don't know if I would rather watch that than Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but I'd definitely rather watch Edward Scissorhands than Nosferatu. And maybe that's a sign of my age, I don't know.
Oh, I don't even know if those are comparable. I don't know what to say. So we're going to move on. Number 17. Suzanne, The Omen. The Omen. Speak to us about The Omen.
Well, The Omen is in my top 3 of all time. It is like it's like a warm blanket. You know, I just like to snuggle up in it.
I like to snuggle up with Satan.
We all have our comfort horror movies. Yeah,
We do.
I do.
I think it's such a well done film, and I think that aside from some of the, you know, like from a costume design standpoint, it's quite dated, but I just think it's probably for me, it's one of the best horror films ever made.
I think that's totally fair.
And I will watch it anytime it's on TV. So I watch it maybe 10 or 12 times a year. That and Jaws. So.
Which is perfect. It's nice that we're all kind of in agreement on The Omen. Most of us agree that it should be higher on the list. Some that it should be where it is. Excuse me, wine. Bella.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa.
I'm everywhere.
It's the chick from Unfriended, y'all.
That was terrifying.
Bella, do you have beer yet?
No.
Why?
I don't have beer, I don't have cookies, and I don't even have dinner.
What the fuck is Mark doing? I hate to be sick, but where is Mark? What is he doing? Why doesn't he have your beer?
He had to go to his mom's for a minute.
Oh. Damn it. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you about The Omen, because you are happy with The Omen where it is, and I would like to know why. I mean, none of us are negative about The Omen, because it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm not negative about The Omen at all. I just I feel comfortable with it where it is because it's not my absolute favorite. I like it. It's not one I revisit often. It's a solid horror movie. I fucking hate kids, guys.
I I don't like them either.
And I hate kid actors, and so I think it automatically is like, meh.
Little Harvey Stevens is perfection.
He's good.
Yeah, meh, 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 meh. No. I don't know, there's just, it's not one of those movies I watched, and I know a lot of times we have these excuses. I did watch this one much later in life, which is strange to me because of the shit I was exposed to at a ridiculously young age. So when I saw this movie for the first time and I was older and I watched it, I was not watching it from this place of, I don't know, it wasn't new, it wasn't interesting, it wasn't this thing that spoke to me. And then it wasn't until I watched it again a couple more times that I was like, oh, no, that's actually a really good movie. It's just not one of my favorite movies. I think in the top 20 is great. And anywhere in there after 10, I'm good. I'm good with it. It's just, it's just one of those things. It's a really solid fucking movie. I can't take that away from it, but,
That's
Gregory Peck.
Yeah, and I'm down with that. But there's that fucking, Damien, man. Come on. Just kill it. Kill it.
Okay. Number 18, An American Werewolf in London. We are delightfully agreed on this one as well. We're going to ask our resident Brit, Miss Sarah. Please talk to us about American Werewolf.
Well, this is where I have to have a bit of shame because I haven't seen American Werewolf in London for a long while. I've been meaning to rewatch it since being not
I was like, what?
It's been a long time, but I mean, it's just it's the soundtrack and it's American Werewolf in London. Come on, like it is what it is, and it is just always going to be one of the great werewolf films.
if not the quintessential werewolf film, more so than the Universal Monsters Wolfman, just for how the characters are presented, how we feel about them during the course of the movie, and that werewolf transition will always be a makeup effects magic show. Always, always. It won an Oscar. You can't deny the amazingness of this film. I think it should be higher on the list. Linne and Katie agree with me. And Linne, please agree with me.
That it should be higher on the list?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my top 5 all-time favorite horror movies ever. Even if you just look at it from the technical standpoint of the effects, it's never been topped since 1981, and that's mind-boggling. If you think about it, that no other werewolf film has ever done a transition scene as good as the one done in 1981 in this movie. Even with all the effects we have now, nothing has ever looked as good.
No.
And for that reason alone, I mean, it deserves to be much higher on this list. But even taking that out, the characterization is great. It's funny. The acting's fantastic. The setting's brilliant. I mean, it's just overall, it is a really genius horror film done by a guy that was more into comedy. So it's just fantastic.
Enough credit. He really does. John Landis he more credit for sure.
Yeah. So it's not shocking to me that it is where it is, but on my personal list, it would be a lot higher.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I mean, it's one of those things. Like, if we can put The Thing really high up on our list because of the effects, then this belongs at least beside it. I don't know.
Right.
Side, like number 4, badam. It's a tie for 4. Oh. I don't know. Miss Katie.
Yes.
Give me your American Werewolf in London feel.
It's all about the effects. I agree with Linne that even though it came out the year that it did, and it used effects that aren't popular anymore, it's still the most well done transition scene in any werewolf film. Period.
Period.
Fact.
That is a fact. It is.
Yeah.
It's a cold fact. All right. Number 19. Vampires again. Let the right one in. Let's go with. Ooh.
This one is funny. I mean.
It's funny. So Katie.
Oh, I'm the only one who.
Please do.
I think. Well, when I saw it on the list, I wasn't really thinking about placement so much as, oh yeah, if I'm going to pick a film from the 2000s that should be recognized on this list in general in a pretty high, spot, then I agree with that. I don't know if specifically I want to say it's number 19 of all time, but yeah, when I was thinking about semi-recent films, that's one that came to mind that I think will stand the test of time and will still be relevant and beautiful and interesting for decades to come.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now
I'm the only one who feels that way. I am the
only
cheese.
Object with it being there is because of the movies that come after it. It's not that it's not a beautiful movie, and it's not that it's memorable, but when you look at the films that come immediately after it, like Frankenstein and The Fly and the original Haunting and The Birds,
Right.
Silence of the Lambs, which I don't even like, but that should still be higher on the list. It's just surprising to me that of all the movies that could have come in that spot, that beat out decades and decades of horror films. I just don't understand.
It's in a funny position for sure. I don't think it doesn't belong on the list. It's in a weird spot.
Yeah.
It's in a weird spot. I feel the same way about the next one. Okay, so
we're all more in agreement about that one.
I think Let the Right One In deserves to be on the list, maybe just not in this particular position.
All right, it should be number 37. Okay.
There we go. Considering what number
Let's put it at 37.
Yes, I agree that a change up is in order.
Yeah.
All right, so number 20. Okay, so everyone, just FYI, once we're done with number 20, we're going to talk about films that we want to add to this list, films that are glaring omissions, classics and modern, post-2000s, and then I'm going to cut off this live broadcast, and we'll probably pick this up in our next episode, and it'll be 100.2, because we could really talk about this for like 9 hours.
I can't wait to talk about the films we want to completely excise from the list that do not belong on here whatsoever. So.
Exactly. Okay, so number 20 is a found footage, a breakthrough found footage film. I don't think that it does not belong on this list just because of the fact of what it is and when it was released, and also on a personal note, what it meant to me as a teenager watching horror films for the first time in theater, being allowed to watch horror films in theater for the first time, and that's The Blair Witch Project. Everyone fucking hates this movie, except for Sarah. Sarah, my love, you are
Okay.
You are a found footage warrior. Do please tell me why you are totally fine with Blair Witch Project being in the top 20.
Well, it is true that I do have I have a weakness for found footage. I can't help it. But the particular thing with Blair Witch Project is I saw it when I was like 13 or so, and all right, this is where you're all going to think that I'm a complete. I didn't think it was real exactly, but I thought it would be on something real, and that just sort of basically the film scared the shit out of me. it scared the shit out of 13-year-old me. I actually was crying. I was so scared. And I know, looking back, so I'm really embarrassed about that. But at the time, it really had an effect on me. And, I know that, there are so many problems with found footage, but it's just always stayed with me, and it did scare me it doesn't scare me now, but it did still scare me for years, and not too many films have long-term staying power for me, but it's just always going to have, like, this weird little place in my horror heart.
And honestly, Sarah, I do appreciate where you're coming from with that. I saw it at, oh God, how old was I? 16? 16. At 16, it was the first movie I was allowed to go to theaters with my friends to. We lived in the middle of absolute nowhere, like bumfuck nowhere, in the middle of the woods. And I went to this movie. I was scared shitless. We didn't have internet. We didn't have viral marketing. So this movie, Blair Witch Project, had the most unique style of marketing that I had experienced at that point. And now, I mean, kids today are just inundated with it. Bam, 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 look at all this viral shit. Make this viral, oh my God. And viral is normal now. Whereas when Blair Witch was coming out, it wasn't normal. It was unique. It was probably real. And what's this found footage shit? No one knew what it was. So, well, because everyone forgot about Cannibal Holocaust, but we'll get to that. But it was something unique that no one had ever seen. So I completely agree with you that it's important. It is an important film. I just don't believe it belongs in the top 20 of all the movies ever made in the horror genre.
That is definitely fair, and I hold up my hands, and I agree with what you guys are saying, and also if it makes you guys feel any better, as soon as I finished watching that, I walked downstairs in, with my terrified tears, and both my brothers just started laughing at me.
I think it should be in the top 20 list of films that were marketed the best. For sure. Like, it should win every advertising award.
Their marketing plan is definitely something that other studios that rhyme with Rum House and run with, and like run and stumble, but they just keep fucking running, and you're like, oh my God, they're gonna fall, but they just don't, and you're just waiting for them to fall, but they don't, and everyone still buys it. It's weird. So, yeah, I mean, Blair Witch Project did start off something unique, very unique. Whether we are greater for it or not, we're not.
I think the thing with that movie is that what it did well, but it doesn't make it a good movie.
No! Definitely not. Definitely not. Chassity, you've been my favorite for playing out the get the fuck off the list! Please tell me why this should be off the list entirely.
You know what? I would take back removing The Exorcist and Night of the Living Dead just to get this one. You know what? Let's just move those two down on the list, but The Blair Witch Project has to go. It is an awful, awful movie. It's annoying, and you know what? If you're a found footage fan, the way I see it, we should be ashamed to give that movie credit for pioneering anything. I don't even care. It's just terrible. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. I will not give it credit for doing anything. So, I'll go.
Oh, man. Jennica.
I almost chose to remove this from the list. Partly because when I watched it, rewatched it a few years ago in adulthood, and I was really mad at it for how boring it was because it just seemed like an hour and a half of nothing happening until the very end. And I kind of hated every character. I wanted them all to die. But then I remembered when I first saw it, and I was 12 or 13, and I was really obsessed with it. it was a different kind of movie. I hadn't seen anything found footage before then, and just beyond that, it was very innovative for just the way things are marketed, the way movies are marketed, especially found footage, and just using viral internet campaigns. I feel like that paved the way for that, and so that's why I kind of justified, well, I might be mad at it now, but it still deserves its place.
Mm-hmm. It does. I think it does deserve a place, and it's one of those things where if you look at found footage now and think about where it came from, thankfully they're doing better than their predecessors. You always want to be better than your parents and stuff. So, I think that's kind of what is happening with the found footage genre. You always want to be better. Everyone wants to be better than the Blair Witch Project. Please want to be better than the Blair Witch Project. That's what I want from these things.
That's the baseline. As long as you're better than the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
And that is not asking a lot.
No.
As someone who just saw Hardcore Henry, by the way, the Blair Witch Project makes you feel a lot sicker, and I think it's because of VHS, perhaps. Like, seeing things in HD, shaky cam is not as nausea-inducing as the Blair Witch Project.
So let me get this straight. So HD is bad for people's skin and faces and general appearance, but is rad for shaky cam?
Sure. I don't know the science of it. I just know I felt queasy after Blair Witch, and I've made it through Hardcore Henry. So
that's funny. You're amazing.
Take that for what it is.
And I also throw a little bit of shade at Blair Witch in my review for Monday. So.
Yeah, all the shade. All the shade. That puts us at Hitfix's top 20, and I think we can safely say that we've ripped this top 20 a new one, which is totally fair. Are there any films, we're going to talk about the rest of these films a little bit later, are there any films that are on this list that you believe belong in the top 20 that aren't in the top 20? And Bella, you can't say Hellraiser.
Why can't I say Hellraiser?
Because I want to say Hellraiser.
Huh.
Well, okay, hands down, the two of us, Hellraiser. Because that didn't come in until number 43, and I was just like, what?
I know, and I'm looking at number 49, and Scream is number 49, and I think if we're looking at these films as a, like, this is important to the genre as a genre, then I think that Scream is important to the horror genre.
It absolutely is.
And it belongs higher than 49. It belongs way above Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which is also the best Nightmare on Elm Street stuff.
I think The Fly belongs in the top 20.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It almost made it. It's 25.
Almost.
I think The Wicker Man. Like, I think for me, The Wicker Man is in the top 25.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
If it were mine,
I think 7 does.
7 is an amazing film for the crime thriller.
To be in the 40s.
It's weird to see it in the 40s, but I feel the same way about Silence of the Lambs. Linne, sorry?
if it were my list, Eyes Without a Face would be in the top 20.
Which one?
I think Eyes Without a Face is at 39. I think that movie really inspired the body horror genre a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, not enough people have seen it, but it deserves to be higher on the list.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Any other films that belong higher than where they are right now, like in the top 20, that are not?
Well, for me, I would move Devil's Backbone into the top 20, but that's my personal.
I would agree with that.
That's in my.
I'm with you on that one.
So. Foreign horror is not well represented on this list.
No.
So.
I feel like this list, it's going to be really interesting for us to go through the rest of it, because I feel like this list really falls the fuck apart after number 20.
It does, which is why in our next week podcast, I think it'll take us another 2 to get through the whole thing. But we'll see how it goes. So now we're going to talk about films that we would like to add to this list of top 100s, not necessarily the top 20, but the top 100s. And we have 2 categories. We have classics, which are we're going to categorize for right now, just for ease of headaches and shit, pre-2000s and new classics, which are post-2000s that we would like to add to the list. Linne, I'm going to start with you, and I want to know the film and the reason why, and then we'll move.
Okay.
Then we'll move along.
All right. Pre-2000, for me, Miss 45 should be on the list, especially because as revenge honey, I'm kind of shocked at how badly the revenge genre is ignored on this whole list. None of the revenge classics are in the top 100 at all, which was kind of mind-boggling to me. Like, Last House on the Left, I can't believe that movie didn't affect more people that were voting on this list, that it didn't make the top 100. But for me, Miss 45 is the best revenge film that came out of that era, and I think it deserves some more recognition. Cemetery Man would be on my list because it's the only zombie movie I can watch ad nauseum and never get tired of it. Again, I don't think enough people have seen it, but it's fantastic, and I believe it's on YouTube, so you literally have no excuse not to watch it because it's free. And Nightbreed would also be on the list. It's one of my favorite Clive Barker stories, one of my favorite Clive Barker films, especially now that it's been cut into the director's cut. It's even better. I think it holds up. I don't think it's cheesy. I think the effects are beautiful. The makeup's beautiful. So those would be my 3 pre-2000. And my new classics, first would be Bug, because it's a movie that I saw, and I have never been so physically unsettled by a movie in my life. Like, I walk out of that, like, scratching and digging at my body, and I've never had a reaction like that to a movie before. And it also began my love affair with Michael Shannon, who I would crawl around on my hands and knees on glass behind just to talk to him for 5 minutes. The Final Girls would also be on the list for me because I think, as we've established through talking to the writers, who are darlings, and just our general love affair with the movie, it's one of the few recent releases that just really gets horror. And I also think that horror comedy was really kind of ignored on this list. There were almost no horror comedy movies. So that would be one of my picks. Another would be Slither, because it's another horror comedy that I can watch ad nauseum, and I think it's kind of this amazing mashup of genres. It's body horror, it's sci-fi, it's monster movie, it's all these different things, and it just holds up so well. And my last one would be Shadow of the Vampire, because it's just brilliant. It's one of the most brilliant meta horror films I've ever seen, and it makes me rewatch Nosferatu in an entirely different way. So
I
for
absolutely agree. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love that movie so much.
For any movie that can kind of change the way you look at a movie you've seen a million times, I think that deserves a lot of recognition. And it was just so brilliantly done. The cast is incredible.
Exactly, and even Carrie Elwes doesn't ruin it, which is hilarious to me.
No, that's hard to put him in a movie and expect he's going to destroy it. So, well done. Well done.
Definitely. Oh my goodness. Make me cry. I miss my cat.
Now she's going to run away.
Oh, I miss my kitties. Oh. Anyway, Katie.
Yes.
Your turn.
Oh, my classic pre-2000s choice would be Candyman, and I don't know that I have to really explain that one.
No.
I mean, I will if you want me to, but
I'm shocked that it's not on there. I'm completely shocked that it's not on there.
it didn't even crack the top 100. And I would put it probably in my top 25 on this list for me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then the new classic post-2000s I would add is The Babadook, because that was one of the rare recent horror films that moved me. in a way that I wasn't expecting and scared me. So.
It's definitely one of those ones that's up for debate a lot amongst horror fans, so I love that it's on your list.
Well, and I'm realizing that I think I have a thing for films that I feel like will stand the test of time, and The Babadook is one of those for me that I can foresee being an influence on filmmakers in the future and something that future generations can watch and still appreciate. So.
I think so too. It's also a revisited horror. It's very, I don't want to say evergreen, but it's just definitely something you would watch and then go away and then come back and watch again and see it differently.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and that's something a lot of horror films don't quite get. And I think the greatest failing of a horror film is to be forgettable, and that happens far too often in this genre.
Definitely.
Miss Bella.
I have two for my classic pre-2000. The Bad Seed from 1956. This movie is why I hate kids, guys. Seriously, it's terrifying from beginning to end, and if you ever really wanted to understand what, sociopathic little bitches are like, this is the movie you should watch. She's horrifying, and those pigtail braids and the
Pigtail braids.
Not a fan. Love the movie.
Remind me to wear pigtail braids the next time we meet.
The next time you push me down the stairs.
Yeah.
My safe word is waffles.
That makes it sound like I've done it before.
My second movie, classic pre-2000, is In the Mouth of Madness from 1994. Because that is the best Cthulhu movie that we have ever had until, it happened later. So, yeah, that movie, goddamn.
Sam
fucking Neill, right?
Yes.
So yeah, In the Mouth of Madness is one that I was really surprised didn't even make it in the 100. I was like, come on, really? And then for new classics, Ex Machina. I know it's sci-fi, in that category there, but it was so fucking perfect, guys. Come on.
It's a horror film. It's definitely a horror film, and I know
that movie.
I think it's definitely a horror film. It's definitely an unsettling thriller, sci-fi thriller.
It was just so brilliant and so perfect from beginning to end. There was not one wasted moment or movement or bit of dialogue, and I think that's so rare these days, especially in modern horror, where we get a lot of exposition that really fucking doesn't actually tell you anything. It's just you like the sound of your own voice, like I do.
That's why we have a podcast, girl.
And then the other one would be Pontypool.
Yeah.
Because I think it did something that a lot of movies don't do, and that's play with language and the way that we understand language. And yes, it veers into that kind of zombie territory, but at the same time, if you pull that away from it, it's still this amazing film about how we respond to communication, and when you think about it, really horrifying things happen because of lack of communication, and how would we deal with language being infected or tainted in some way? And I just think it was doing something really unique and really fucking inspirational, and should definitely make this list somewhere.
Absolutely. Wasn't there was it Radiohead that did a music video that was like that, where they told a joke or something, they whispered something into each other's ear and they all died after doing it? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, it's the video for Just.
Thank you! Yeah. Thank you! And Katie, you were like the music magician. You know all these things. Thank you.
Hooray!
Oh, that's
I knew it wasn't insane! Ha Chassity!
Mm-hmm.
It's your turn, my love.
Okay, so of course I have to agree with Bella on the bad seed. I mean, it's an amazing movie, and it's also part of the reason why I will be an aunt and not a mother. I mean, it's frightening in so many ways, and just you can't not get captivated by it. But also the Abominable Dr. Fives, because it's just a classic and it's amazing. And I understand how When a Stranger Calls is not on that list.
Mm,
I think it belongs on there. I mean,
I would agree.
it's one of those movies that everybody waxes poetic about anyway. So.
It's true. It's very true. But for good reason.
Yeah.
Okay, and your new classic?
I'm afraid to answer if everybody's gonna hate me.
Don't be afraid, Chassity. You can tell us.
It's obvious, but I like Saw should be on that list because it changed the face of modern day horror in a number of ways. You can hate the sequels all you want, but that first one is a classic in and of its own right because of what it did, and it changed the focus of the horror genre for pretty much an entire decade. And it had, in a lot of ways, it had a Hitchcockian feel to it, with the way it was shot, and I mean, it has its value outside of my biased opinion. I feel like it has its value, and you know, if Final Destination is on this list, I don't see why Saw shouldn't be on the list.
I was just gonna say, if we could interchange Final Destination with Saw, I think that would be a completely legitimate trade.
I would agree with that. I would actually have been less annoyed to see Saw on that list.
Thank you.
Than Final.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think Saw, being what it was, I think it had more to say than Final Destination. So I definitely don't begrudge that. At all. At all. I think that's good. All right. Jennica?
As far as pre-2000s, I had to put The Wolfman on there. I think that they had a lot of great Universal choices, but The Wolfman's always been my personal favorite Universal monster movie. I love the voodoo in it. I love the mysticism of it, and it has a very kind of child scary story feel to it. It reminds me of stories that I used to read as a kid under flashlight in my room, and contrary somewhat, I guess, to the effects in American Werewolf in London, I actually think that the effects in The Wolfman are really impressive considering the limitations that they had at those times for makeup and effects. It always takes me back. And he also included House on Haunted Hill. I know The Haunting was on the top 100 list, but I think that House on Haunted Hill is more a superior film. And I love Vincent Price.
Who doesn't love Vincent Price?
Yeah. And that's still, I mean, I've seen quite a few Vincent Price movies, and that's still probably one of my favorite of his. And as far as post-2000, a lot of things that I think make a classic movie are movies like Night of the Living Dead and like Psycho, that really reflects what's going on in society and social movements and political movements. And so I really feel like The Purge had a lot to say about that. I wasn't a huge fan of the sequel, Anarchy. I didn't really like that very much, but I really thought the first one reflects what's going on right now and how people are treated differently as far as classism goes, and socioeconomic status. I feel like it really painted a picture of a really frightening dystopia that maybe we're not very far from. And I also chose Insidious because, well, I guess I'm a huge fan of The Omen, and just that opening title sequence, it really made me think of The Omen, just the music and the lettering of just the big title on the screen. It was horrifying just from that very second. And I thought the acting was phenomenal in that. And I thought it was somewhat of a different story. I mean, we have a lot of stories about possession and hauntings, but they never say anything about this kid being possessed. They don't talk about the house being haunted. It's this child that's being haunted, and I just thought that was kind of a unique take on that subgenre that I really loved. And it was probably the first movie in, I don't know, last 5 to 10 years that really genuinely frightened me. I had nightmares.
I think those are great, great additions. Jennica, I do have to say that I live tweeted The Purge when it was first released, and I drank my way through it because I was so angry at it.
Oh, really?
I was so fucking mad.
Were you mad at the movie or just
I was
mad
so mad at the movie. Oh my god. But I don't think you're wrong. It made me so mad. But I do agree that the social commentary that it adds is I think it's a very one-sided view of it and a very removed POV version of it, like a security camera version of it. But I do agree that it's important for what it has presented.
Yeah, it was relevant.
Definitely relevant. Definitely relevant. Yeah. Sarah.
To be honest, I'm not super, like, 100%.
How the fuck is Pet Sematary not enough on this list? I'm so surprised.
Well, yeah, no, that one I am pretty happy with, but it's just like a case of you guys all took ones that I wanted to do. Like my first instinct to that was, oh, In the Mouth of Madness, and then Bella took it.
That's why.
Yeah, Pet Sematary.
But I love you.
Pet Sematary, I found that very, very, and I mean that's one I saw really recently as well. But no, I find that very unsettling. And okay, maybe I don't necessarily think that Sleepaway Camp is a classic, but I've just got a lot of affection for it.
It is a classic. It is a slasher classic. It is a gender-bending classic. It needs to be there. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ghostwatch. No one? Okay.
I've never.
Basically, it was a docudrama. It was like a one-off thing that they did on the BBC in 1992 on Halloween. And the best way I can describe the impact of it is that was England's, like, Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, because it was this drama, but everyone thought it was real because it was presented like a reality show investigation of a haunted house, and they had, like, popular TV presenters in it, and it just absolutely terrified. And I think it just has, like, a very particular impact that I think more people should know about, basically.
That's fun. That's very British oriented. That's very cool. Oh. It's coming for us. Oh no.
Sorry, I'm in Hollywood. It happens.
Keep it going, Sarah. New classics.
Pardon, sir?
New classics.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot that. Yeah, these ones are, again, I'm not 100%. I mean, Kid in the Woods, like, just all of the tropes and all of the references and just everything that it kind of encompasses about the horror genre, I think it's worth mention. Attack the Block, again, that's just a kind of an affectionate thing, but I just think it does what it does so very well.
It's fantastic.
And especially with, the alien gorilla wolf motherfuckers. And Noroi is it's a Japanese horror film because, of course, I had to mention a Japanese horror film at some point. And it's also a docudrama but it does this whole kind of like folklore thing to it that I really like and I always find very effective, and a little bit like Ghostwatch, I just think it's one that more people should know about.
Fantastic. That's awesome. All right, Suzanne.
For my classic pre-2000, I went with a movie that gets very little love, but I love it, and that's
Me too.
and I know Linne loves it. Love the Sentinel. I think that I think people are finally starting to appreciate it a little bit more, but that's another one of my like comfort films, and I think it deserves a little more love. And also The Serpent and the Rainbow.
I love Serpent and the Rainbow. Why is it on this list?
So good. For my new classic, I went with a foreign film, Korean film, I Saw the Devil.
Yes.
Which is one of the most terrifying films I've ever seen.
Again, it's really underrepresented.
Yeah.
Well, again, the revenge genre, I feel like, really got shut out of this list.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anything revenge was really not represented here, and I don't know how that happened. But I will say the only reason I didn't pick The Sentinel was because I knew you'd want it.
Thanks, Linne. Welcome.
All right. I guess it's my turn. My classic pre-2000 that I would love to see added, Misery, obviously. As a writer, I find Misery really fucking terrifying. I love Misery. I love Annie Wilkes. I love... I just really, really, really love... oh my god, why can't I remember her name? What's wrong with me, you guys? Is it the bottle of wine? It's the bottle of wine.
Kathy Bates.
Thank you! Kathy Bates! I love Kathy Bates! I'm like, Dolores Claiborne, Misery, what the fuck is her name? Kathy Bates. I love Kathy Bates. And she's terrifying. I hear children. That's also terrifying. Or is it a cat?
It's a cat. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. And then because
I just wanted to say hi. There he goes.
Hey.
Sorry. Our pets are interrupting all over the place.
I love it. Because I'm in New Zealand, I have to mention a New Zealand film. I would love to see Dead Alive on this list. I think it does belong on the top 100. Just because slapstick is also underrepresented in and amongst all these films. My new classic is Sinister. I don't know why Sinister didn't make this list. Sinister is fucking amazing. And it should be on here immediately. I'm also traumatized by the fact that Phantasm and Child's Play are not on this list.
I don't think as many people have seen Phantasm outside of the hardcore genre as we think.
I know, and this does feel like the more I look at it, the more this does feel like a peripheral history list. And I'm throwing all the shade at Hitfix for this because you fucking know better and you have resources to know better.
They claim to have polled 100 horror experts, like bloggers, filmmakers. I did not look at the list, but looking at the list might explain the absence of a lot of good foreign films and some other stuff.
It explains a lot of things that are missing. It explains why It Follows is on there. It explains why a lot of things are on there that shouldn't be. So, yeah. Either way we slice it, we're going to be, like, ninja cutting this top 100 list over the next couple weeks. I'm just going to keep doing this. It's like voguing. It's like voguing, but pretend I have knives for hands. You know.
It's hypnotizing me.
So that's what we're going to do this list over the next few weeks. We've sliced and diced the top 20 of Hitfix's top 100 horror films ever made. Ever made. God, some of these choices are so shitty. Ugh. We're going to fix this. We're going to fix this for Hitfix. And they're going to fucking thank us.
Since they clearly didn't poll us.
They clearly didn't ask us, which is their main failing. So, ladies, oh my God, we've been on the air for a while now. So, thank you to everyone who's been watching and tweeting and interacting. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can find us at thehorrorhoneys.com. You can speak to us on the Twitters. Oh, wait, it's on this side. Ooh, ooh, I'm bad at this.
Down. It's down.
This side?
Down.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, you can find us on Twitter at HorrorHoneys, HorrorHoneys. You can speak to Linne Revenge Honey.
I am at Linne Loowho, LINNIELOOWHO.
You can talk to Katie, our Sci-Fi Honey.
I'm at Moonrise Sister, MOONRISE SISTER.
You can talk to our Supernatural Honey, Suzanne.
SuzB04, SUZBEE04.
You can talk to Bella, our Zombie Honey.
At Miss Bella Blitz, MISSBELLABLITZ.
You can talk to our Slasher Honey, Chassity.
at CHASSMM.
You can talk to Jennica, our Horror TV Honey.
I'm at Prom Queen from Mars, PRMQUEEN FRMMARS.
And our Monster Honey, Sarah.
You can find me at Sarah Jo Smiley. That's SARAHJOSMILEY.
Oh my God, you guys! Please, let's say enormous fuckity bye to episode 100.
Fuckity bye!
Fuckity bye! Oh my God! Click.